Welcome back to Sports Talk. I'm Mike Ruck, sitting in for Johnny B, who's on assignment today. We're going to be talking McKinney North basketball. We've got Darryll Kraft, head coach of the Bulldogs, and Michael Oldham, head coach of the Lady Bulldogs. Coaches, welcome back to Sports Talk. It's good to have you here.
Thanks for having us.
Now, Coach Kraft, tell us a little bit about the end of last season. You win a couple rounds in the playoffs as usual. What impact, if any, did that have on what you did after that to get ready for this season? What was your off-season focus?
Well, really because of the clientele we had last year, which were mostly seniors, we lost everyone. We only had one player coming back with any varsity experience for McKinney North. So, we had to go back and really retool everything that we had taught some of those seniors. Those seniors were a luxury to have. They had 3 or 4 years experience, and they could do a lot of things on their own that took a lot of pressure off of me because they already knew what we wanted to do. In the off-season last spring, we really had to go back and talk to them about just the little fundamental things that we needed to accomplish, and then carry it over again into August and into hopefully this coming district play.
Now, who was the one player that you got to keep?
It was a freshman. He's going to be a sophomore this year, Jarrett Perry.
Now, I got to ask you a question, just so people understand the functionality of it. When do the freshmen, this year's freshmen, get to start practicing with you? Is that not until August?
First day of school.
First day of school.
We give them the lockers and so forth and so on to get them ready for tryouts, which is the second day of school. And then second day of school, we have 8 days of tryouts and find out who's going to be kept at least until December when we get all the players in from either tennis, cross country, or football, those dual sports. And then we try to narrow it down in December and get our teams already, made. We have 4 or 5 different teams, varsity, a JV team, an orange team, and then our freshman team.
So you don't really have a very long time to incorporate those freshmen. You've got to get the team set. Let's go.
Yes, sir.
That's tough. Coach Oldham, you ended last year, I think, fairly well. State tournament, losing in the final to Canyon, but a game that I bet you think you could win because it certainly looked like you could win it. Well, how did that help you prepare for this year, or does it make the challenge even greater?
Well, we've tried not to focus on last year and tried to just see what we could get out of this year's team. Of course, last year added excitement to the program. During the off season, it was easy to motivate the girls with this new challenge. We're just really trying to stay hungry and try to stay humble through all of it. We've got 8 or 9 girls back off that team from last year, so we're just trying to get better at what we're already good at and clean up the things that we're not so good at yet.
Well, what was probably the biggest thing you learned going to the state tournament and experiencing that?
Well, for being my first experience, it was a very fun journey. Going up against the coaches that you coach against, you have to get your teams very prepared because they're going to have their teams prepared. Of course, that last game was against a coaching legend, not only in Texas but around the United States, one of the most successful coaches. So that was an honor, and I learned some things as a coach as far as tempo of the game, recognizing when that momentum is changing, and so I'm looking to use what I've learned throughout the rest of this year to help us get all the way this year.
Now, you probably can't go through the entire list, but you said you had 8 or 9 people returning this year. Who are the few that you really are counting on the most to contribute?
Well, of course, we've got Shantaria Jackson back. She's been a 4-year starter, so really leaning on her. Starting 3 sophomores right now off that team from last year. Jocelyn Scott back from last year. She's basically in her 3rd year as a starting role. So Lauren Foster's been in the program, senior, coming off the bench right now, playing very valuable minutes. So just, all the ones that came back are definitely, in that mix right now. We play 9. I've had 9 to 10 people available, and we play 9 to 10 pretty much every game.
Now, Coach Kraft, as you've started the pre-district season, what have you noticed about your team? What is it that stands out?
We have different players almost every game, to be honest with you, Mike. We haven't had our roster, whether it be because of different reasons, injuries or whatever it may be. We have not dressed out our entire team yet, and we've played 13 games. We just got our football players back on last Saturday. and they've played in 7 games, and they've had 1 practice in that time. So, we are really looking forward to this week. We're off this Tuesday. We don't play again until Friday. So we're really looking forward to being able to go out there and have 3 or 4 days of practice where everybody can be there and they can understand what we're trying to implement and so forth and so on. It just, I give a lot of credit to those kids who started the season, and they battled, they played hard. We didn't have a real good record. I think it was 1-5, but we were in every game but 1. And then our football players, give them a lot of credit because they lost on a Friday. They came out the very next day and played games, and that was just unbelievable that they showed up. They won both as a team. We won both games then, and we've been 6-1 since they've entered our program. So we finally got all of our kids healthy and hopefully ready to go today for practice and implement everything we need to implement, and then add some new stuff to get ready for the district run.
Now, do you make any allowances for the guys that came for football, maybe playing fewer minutes right at the start, or it's like, no, we need you, get in there and play?
Well, on that Saturday, I talked to the whole team, and like I said, my biggest fear was that they'd go out there and they would hurt themselves because of the fact their mind says, hey, I'm ready to go, but their body's not in basketball shape. So I told 2 of our big guys, listen, you're going to go in the game, but it probably won't be the first quarter. We're going to play like 2 minutes. I'll get you out and get somebody else in. Well, the bad thing about it is we had 1 young man taking a SAT test, had another, and he was a post player, had another post player who was injured from the night before, so only left with 1 actual post player. He gets 2 fouls in the first minute. So I looked down at Kobe and Jomar. I said, okay, who wants the first 2 minutes? So I kind of rotate them every 2 minutes to try to, just because I didn't want them to get hurt or anything like that. And then since then, they've had a practice, and we played Greenville on Tuesday night, had 4 games in the tournament. And so I do watch their minutes. Some of the other ones, like McShane and Miguel, who I know play a lot on their own, I gave them a little bit more minutes early. So, but when we have 11 kids, we have 13 kids. We play usually 11, if not all 13, and that gives us an opportunity to mix those minutes up wherever needed.
Now, Coach Oldham, you're sitting at 9-4 right now. You had a nice victory over Plano West. It's not something most teams can say. Certainly not a 5A team against a 6A powerhouse like that. But where do you think your team is? And has there been a game that has stood out to you either direction? Yeah, this is working the way I want it to, or we really got to practice.
Well, Mike, it's been kind of a little bit of both. We opened up with Duncanville, the state runner-up from the 5A last year, now in 6A, beat them by 10. Then we took on Dallas Skyline, which was ranked number 1 in the state in 6A, at their place and beat them by about 13. Beat Plano West, beat a good Mesquite Horn team. So we beat some quality 6A state-ranked teams. My frustration is the 4 losses are against teams that I would have thought we're about where I thought we would be right now. But I just thought maybe those 3 or 4 losses would have came against those other teams versus the ones that we lost against. But to answer your question, those 4 losses, we have learned what gives us trouble, and what we've got to work on, and that's why we played the tough schedule that we played.
Now, have you been in any tournaments yet?
We've been in 2 tournaments. The Allen tournament, which is a very prestigious tournament, and a lot of great quality teams in it. Unfortunately, we lost an 8 a.m. game that morning against a good Rockwall team, but went on to win the consolation championship of that tournament. And then the McKinney ISD tournament, we lost to Flower Mound Marcus in the semifinal of it, and was able to finish 3rd by beating Boyd in that particular game. So we've got the Sandra Meadows tournament coming up, which is going to have several nationally ranked teams in it over Christmas break, and open up with Mesquite Horn again, and then we should have Manville, the 5A state champion from last year.
So the message from you to your girls is, we're going to play the biggest teams possible. We want to compete. We can beat anybody, anytime, anywhere, anyway, anyhow.
My ultimate goal as a coach is to have McKinney North girls basketball on a national stage, and the only way to do that is to play the best teams in Texas. So that's what I tried to do this year, and my girls overall have done very well against that. We've dropped 2 in a row, and I personally think they're a little mentally and physically probably exhausted from this preseason schedule. So tomorrow night, we're looking for all of that to start paying off.
All right, now Coach Kraft, what about you? How many tournaments have you been in, and what was the record?
We've been in 2 tournaments. We were in the Prosper tournament, lost 2 games to start off with on a Thursday, and then that Saturday we got our football players and we had more kids, and we ended up winning our championship of the consolation. So I was happy with that. So I was 2-2, and then we just finished up at the Greenville tournament. Won our first 2, got in bracket play. The semifinals, lost to John Tyler in overtime. A little bit more of a physical team than what we're used to, and we had a 17-point lead just in the first half, and just found a way to kind of give it away. Just that's one of the things we have to work on, is how to close out a game, and we just didn't do a great job. But we lost in overtime by 2 at the buzzer, and then we ended up winning the 3rd place game against Oklahoma City, and so we were 3-1 in that tournament.
Now, do you notice a difference in style of play when you play a team from out of state?
No, not really. I mean, everybody has their own style based upon what their personnel gives them and allows them to do. We've played teams from out of state. We played an Australia team in the Greenville tournament, and they had a 6'7", I mean, just a real good post player, and they tried to dump it into him the whole time, and they had some shooters on the outside, and then we played the Oklahoma City team, and they wanted to press a little bit more, and they weren't nearly as big, but they were maybe a little bit more fundamentally sound inside because they had to do all the things correctly to get a shot up. They're only, the tallest player is about 6'3". So, I think it really just depends on each coach and what his personnel allows him to do.
The good news there, I'm assuming, it gives your team a chance to see different varieties of play, so that when you get to district, hopefully, nothing happens in district that will surprise you and take them off guard.
Couldn't agree anymore. I mean, we've played teams that want to zone, we've played teams that want to press, we've played physical teams, we played teams that play us man-to-man, kind of let us do what we want to do. That's the thing. When we start every game now, it's like, hey, it doesn't matter what they're in. You guys should know what we are going to do to counteract that, because we've seen everything, whether it be a full court man-to-man press, zone press, 2-3 zone, 1-3-1, run and jump. We've seen everything. We've played a lot of good teams, and hopefully when we get into district play, whatever is thrown our way, at least we'll have something that we want to do it if we just execute it correctly.
Now, Coach Oldham, give us a preview of your district. I don't think there's been a huge change. The one change, I guess, is McKinney is now in the district when they were in the upper classification last year. But obviously, your team's the favorite going into this season. But who do you think's vying for the places behind you?
Well, I think you got to put McKinney up in that list. Just dropping from 6A down to 5A. There's just a little different level of competition, and especially the district that they've been in the last 2 years with the Planos and the Allens. So I know that Coach Harris is going to have them playing hard and executing things and playing well. Wiley is much improved. They're a very long and athletic team. And Lovejoy always plays us very tough. We've played them already this year. One game in the Allen tournament, so I'm expecting them to be in the mix as well.
Now, Coach Kraft, give us a quick setup for your district. Who do you think the top dog is?
Well, I think the top 2 spots are probably McKinney High and Prosper. I think both those teams are have some kids back. Prosper's really long. McKinney High probably got 2 of the best players in our district. I would put us right in there in the mix, but I really believe there's going to be the last week of the district schedule with 2 games to go. You're going to have 6 or maybe even 7 teams vying for a playoff spot. I think it's just wide open and a lot of parity in our district.
So pretty evenly split among all the teams, good competition. It might come down to hopefully your teams having seen all those different variances during the pre-district games and being able to make up for it once the district gets here. So.
I hope so.
Now, you've got a game this Friday against Creekview, is that correct?
That's correct, at home, yes sir.
And then your next game after that is where?
It's going to be at North Forney.
North Forney.
December the 30th.
December the 30th at North Forney. Yes, at home this Friday, December 19th versus Creekview. Now, what about you, Coach Oldham? You said that you're going to the Duncanville-Sandra Meadows tournament. Do you have games this week?
We open district tomorrow night against Wiley East here at McKinney North, and Friday we go to Prosper for our 2nd district game, and then we open up the Sandra Meadows tournament on Monday, December 29th at noon versus Mesquite Horn.
Mesquite Horn. All right. Well, these are the basketball coaches from McKinney North High School. You have Darryll Kraft and Michael Oldham. And once again, thank you for tuning in to Sports Talk.